Hi, I'm Eric Kunz, Senior Product Manager with Furuno. And in today's Furuno Connection episode, we're going to get into the details and the nitty-gritty technical aspects of what it takes to change out this autopilot system. We're going to take out the existing Garmin reversing pump and replace it with a much smaller pump. I'm talking like hydraulic fittings and hydraulic oil floating around. You know, it's messy. You're going to need rags. If you want to go there, follow along. But if you're not comfortable, please contact a local Furuno dealer to help you with this kind of installation. Let's go. The original intent on this boat was to reuse the old reversing pump as well as the Helm sensor for the NavPilot 300 installation. But when we talked to Team Fortunate and looked at the old pump and just saw how, number one, how big it was, and the fact that it's rusty and it's on the, it's on the floorboard and taking up a lot of space, what we decided to use was a brand new super high efficiency Octopus reversing pump. And we'll take a look at that, how it's actually going to go on right now. I've actually installed it on a little piece of starboard to give it more support, and we're going to actually put that not on the floor but on a bulkhead, on an angled bulkhead, and I gave it this support, and I'm going to put 4 bolts in it, and we're going to take a look at just how efficient and how much cleaner it is with this new pump installed. So I've just cut the tie wraps, and one of the things that you should always do, or it's just a good idea to do, is to have some phase tape available, some red and green tape. And you can see how SeaVee, when they installed the pilot, actually put a red tape, a mark around one of the lines coming forward, going aft, and a green one on the other one. This is the port side for port rudder, and this is the starboard rudder. If we follow that around, what I'll do is I'll just make sure that I'm looking at the right line, and this is our port side. So this would be port right here. So I'm going to put a little piece of phase tape, red tape around that line. And that's going to be easy to remember because that's the line, that's the side that the Helm switch is on, the Helm sensor. So I'm going to put a piece of tape around that just to make sure I remember it. Okay, red, and then green. We're going to put on the other side. But let's take this a step further and just put a little piece of green tape up here on the green side. Right here, and you can see green and red. So when we put this back together, we can follow that back, and then we know we'll get it right. Boom. There we go. So that will help us when we go to put everything back together. Let's finish getting the pump out now. So you can see how with this old reversing pump in here, it was just a large pump. And our new pump is much more efficient, much smaller. In fact, it's less than half the size of this old pump. And we had to, because of the size of this pump and the weight of it, it had to be mounted directly on the floor of the console. But the nice thing is with this new pump, let's look and see the difference. Let's get this old one out of here and just see just how massive it is. Look at this new pump. It's less than half the size. And the fittings are going to come out in a much more streamlined way where we don't need all the fittings. In fact, we're going to reduce the number of hydraulic fittings in this installation by about half just by changing this pump. We have like 4, 6, 7, 8 fittings on this old pump alone, and we're going to reduce that down to about 4 or 5 with this new system. So, and the other nice thing is we're going to actually put it on the bulkhead. So with this little plate that I made, we're going to be able to mount it right up here and see how much less space it'll take up. It'll free up that whole floor of the console, and it'll just be much more streamlined, easier with fewer fittings, and a lot less weight. I just got done mounting the new reversing pump, and you can see that now that it's on the bulkhead, how much more room is available in the console to store stuff that you really don't want to get wet. Take a look in here and see how it looks now compared to before. You can see that we've still retained the Helm sensor, the Helm movement sensor, and plumbed that in, but you can also see how much more room there is. Like, there's nothing on this console floor anymore like there was. The pump is on the bulkhead. It's secured very nicely with 4 big screws into the glass, without going too far. And also, the T's in here and the way I've plumbed it, and reduce just the sheer number of or the amount of hose. I must have taken about 12 feet of hose out of this boat between all the connections. And this greatly simplifies the number of fittings in the system. One of the most important components you need to install when you do any autopilot is a compass, a heading sensor. And in this case, we're going to use a Fluxgate heading sensor with 360-degree motion. It's a really nice compass, the PG700. It's been out for a while, and it does a great job. One of the great things about the PG700 is this mounting design. It allows you to mount on a vertical bulkhead, or that's either a thwartships or in parallel with the lubber line, or you can mount it on a flat surface using these 2 screws. It's really flexible. In this case, I'm going to mount it to a bulkhead that's parallel with the lubber line off to the side a little bit in this hold right here. And you can see that I have to say bow forward and this side up. So I'm going to bolt this. I'm going to first bolt this guy right under here in a clean area. And maybe you can get in there and take a look at that. These are not electrical cables, by the way. One of the most important things for any compass installation is make sure that they get their tools pretty far away. If there's a tool bag going in this hold or any kind of metal or steel objects. Further, you don't want to mount it where there's a lot of wires, or especially the bow thruster wire or any other high current wire, because that creates a magnetic field, and that will definitely influence and affect the compass in a negative way. Okay? Mount it in a clean area and you're good to go. Notice that I'm trying to keep that tool bag that they stow in here as far away as possible. Before, the compass was on the port side right next to the tool bag, and that would obviously cause a problem if those tools shifted while we're underway. Now I have the compass set up under here. And one of the nice things about the PG700 is that I actually put it in a place where you can still visually check the LEDs on it to make sure everything's okay. Not only can you check the LEDs with the PG700, but you can actually configure the PG700 with any autopilot or any radar system on any vessel, because it's got buttons on the top that allow you to go into the compensation modes directly without having to have special software with our products or anybody else's products. One of the problems I ran into was trying to use the existing Helm flow switch for safe Helm operation on the NavPilot 300. I was able to overcome it, but one of the problem was the fact that this existing switch in here for the previous autopilot is a normally closed switch, and I needed normally open input switches for the safe Helm operation on the NavPilot 300. In fact, I need 2. So what I was able to do is put on a different hat, go back to my first year of engineering school, and design a dual PNP transistorized little board that'll convert that switch signal over from normally closed to normally open. And I just biased it with a couple resistors. There's 8 components. There's 6 resistors and 2 transistors in this little circuit. And I even added another switch to get around the fact that the NavPilot 300 is going to ask me to check 2 different switches on the software installation. So when we get to that point in software, I'm going to have somebody down here flip this little switch, and I'll be able to confirm, and the NavPilot 300 will see both switches in operation, and that'll make the safe Helm operation work perfectly for Team Fortunate. So we've got the NavPilot 300 all installed, and I've got it turned on. When it first came up, it was in the initialization page, but I hit some buttons and I'm out of that mode. If we need to go back into the initialization menu, all we have to do is press and hold the wrench key and press the standby key 3 times while you're in the standby mode. That gets me into the installation menu. From here, I can set the language, the units. You can see at the bottom here, I can go down with my right arrow key and go up with my left arrow key to move the cursor. Once I go down, I can then hit the enter key, which is the double arrow key here, to go into the display setup. To return, I would use that previous button, the wrench key. that gets me into the previous menu. So once I'm done, I can select my language, for example, if I want to select Spanish or English. Done. Units, same thing. Go in and you can change your units, maybe from speed of knots. I would go down and maybe set mile per hour, and that would get into that would allow me to set that. Display, same thing. I can go change my display types, my position formats, depending on how I like that. I'm going to go right down into ship's characteristics now. For ship's characteristics, I would select enter, and I would select my boat type. Default is outboard, which I'm going to leave alone. You can see that there's a couple different selections for inboard, outboards, or pod drives, or other kinds of drives. But this is just a standard outboard boat. And my rudder sensor is a phantom feedback. So I don't have a rudder sensor. I'm using the phantom feedback mode of the NavPilot 300. My cruising speed is about 40 miles an hour. So I'm going to go up and select 40 and then enter. And my rate of turn, I'm going to change that from 5 degrees per second to 6 degrees per second. And that's done. Now that I'm done with the ship's characteristics, I can hit return or previous to go back to the previous menu. Now I go down to my dockside setup page and hit enter. For dockside setup, I'm going to select my drive unit first, and we happen to have a Safe Helm 12-volt reversing pump system. So once I select Safe Helm 12, enter. Now I can go down and check my air bleeding mode. Now for air bleeding, there's going to be 2 steps. You're going to have to go in and check the reversing pump, which this does right now. This will move the right arrow key. You can hear my pump start. And my left arrow key. I should go hard over to hard over in this mode to make sure that we have full hard over with no air in the system. Air, if there was any air in the system, I'd be able to hear it right now. Once I hit the hard over, you'll hear the pump load, and you'll know you're at the hard over point. If you go back and forth a couple times here, you get the air out, and then we're good. And then before I'm done, I'm just going to roughly recenter the engines, which the next step will tell me to do anyway. So once I'm done, I hit that button. You can see here the temperature of the FETs, as well as the input voltage and the motor current. If you think you're having trouble, this is a good troubleshooting page to check and see the status of the system. So previous. Once I'm in that air bleeding, out of that air bleeding mode, I'm going to actually go back in one more time, and then we'll also check the fact that the Verado side of the system, the power steering side of the system, doesn't have any air in it either. Once I'm done bleeding the system, on the Verado side, I can go down to my rudder test. And in order to go down to rudder test, I'm going to go right arrow, enter, and now we're being the rudder test. It says use the helm to center the rudder before starting the test. The rudders, yes, centered. Start test. Press and hold the starboard arrow key until the rudders move. Which side did the rudder move to? It moved to port. We're going to make a port turn if I keep pressing that arrow key. Use the helm or the arrow key to move the rudder hard over to port or starboard. I'm going to go hard over to port since I'm already started there. So I'm hard over to port. Rudder at hard limit, enter. Press and hold the arrow key to move the rudder to the opposite hard limit. So now I'm at port, I'm going to go to starboard. Once I do that, I don't release the key until the rudder's at the hard limit, because right now the processor unit is measuring the time from hard over to hard over for this reversing pump on this boat. So once it gets a hard over, yes. Now it says press and hold the arrow key to move to the opposite hard over to check it one more time. Port. So now we're going hard over to port. Again, checking the time for the hard over to hard over side. That's it. Hard has the rudder reached the hard limit? Yes. So rudder test is complete. My rudder speed is a little slow because we don't have the actual battery charger on right now, so we're running a little low voltage, about 11.8 into the system. That'll get fixed as soon as we start the engines. press any key to continue. You can see that my rudder drive level is at 12 and my safe helm system is working. So now I can go down to the next step, which is my helm sensor check. I'm going to go in and hit enter here. Larry, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to center the helm. And then once I'm ready, I hit enter. And it says turn helm to starboard side. Press any key to abort. So I turn the helm to starboard. The helm sensor was detected. Now let's flip the switch, Larry.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go to port. And we'll see if my helm sensor is detected there too. So the helm sensor was detected in both directions because I basically faked the input using a special switch that I have because we only have a single helm sensor and not two helm sensors like we would normally have with a regular safe helm system. But once that's done, it tells me helm sensor test complete, press any key to continue. So that's it, my helm sensor's done, but now I can go in and set up my safe helm system. So if I go down to safe helm setup, now you can see I have safe helm turned on. My return delay is a little long. I'm going to go down and make that maybe 3 seconds. And my safe helm response can be checked right here in this mode. So you can see if my response level is at 5, it's pretty good right now. The idea behind the response level is that I don't want the system to activate when I'm just normally standing at the helm and just touching the wheel a little bit. I want to have to make a very positive movement of the helm in order to get the system to kick out. So that's done, that's working, and the 5 setting is pretty good. I can adjust that afterwards if we need to. Now I'm going to go down to my the safe helm beep, which I don't really like. I turn that off. If every time you grab the wheel and you want it to know that you've kicked out of auto mode, you can have that beep, but I don't like it. So that's all. Now my safe helm system is set up. Now I can go down and check my power assist setup. And for this boat, because we only have a single helm sensor, we're just going to turn power assist off. Power assist is not going to work with this particular boat. Off. So no power steering. So once I've done that, I can go back to my previous mode. I can check my NMEA 2000 sensors. I can look at my device list and see everything that's in here. I can also kick back out and look at my incoming PGN list. This will show you all the PGNs that are on the bus, including if I want to refresh it. I can also go in here and select my sensors. And what I'm going to do is I can look at which sensors are available from this sensor in use list, or I can go down and select the ones I want to use right away. In this case, I'm going to use for heading my PG700. That's my main heading sensor. My speed through water is going to be my DST200, and sometimes the pilot likes speed through water, especially if we're in current, like in a river on the Columbia, for example, in this area. And my sensor selection, I'm going to go down and select my speed over ground as well. I'm going to use my GP330B, and my position, also GP330B. So once that's done, I can kick back out, or I can check one more time. Sensor selections, there's a sea trial mode, which I have to go in as well. For sea trial, you see that the only thing we have to do for the sea trial is just either adjust the speed through water, or set your compass selection, and that's it. Just set up the compass for the calibration, and there is no other sea trial with this system. I can go in and change some autopilot options in here and some fish hunter options, but I can also do that while the boat's actually in use, and it's a little easier. So now I'm going to go in and set up my wireless remote controller. So I'd say that, and I would go down here and click this wrench button, go into my system menu, and then go down to pairing and say pair yes. Once I do that, this unit will automatically recognize, and I'd select that, and now I'm paired. It's all working. 7878.
So thanks for watching, and if you like the exciting content that you've seen, Click the link below to like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you'll be the first one to know when we have new content available with new product information and new exciting stuff from Furuno.